Hello, this is Noah Lee, and I'm going to go over my code and the program for CSC313 on graphics. This is for project number 5 on texture mapping. I will quickly go over a couple of the smaller things that I added to this code, excluding items for now that actually affect the functionality of the code itself. I did want to briefly preface and say that unfortunately my team and I were unable to get the code working correctly as would be ideal. The output file is unfortunately not exactly what we'd like, but it is close enough. This is one of the smaller things that I added to the code. This was primarily done just for the purpose of testing to show to show what files have been created. All this does is we have a static name for the file. We then have the index of the file, which we first check to see if the output file name exists as is. We then, if it does exist, we append the current file index to we instead change the file name to be output with the file index, then the extension, and subsequently increment the index. We then check to see if the file exists again. If it does exist, we instead increment one more time and then check again, rinse and repeat. If it does not exist, then we do have a new extension and we can go ahead and run that file. What this does is, as mentioned, when a new file is generated, for the purpose of testing to compare against old files, it will only make new files in the directory where this code runs. I can go ahead and move on to the body of where I changed the code. I was able to determine that the best place to change the code would be when adding a face vertices to the scene faces for the purpose of drawing the texture map. I did, in this case, I'll reference ChatGPT. I prompted ChatGPT to give me some suggestions for where could be changed, and I was able to come up with the following changes to be made. First of all, instead of just using a static 3 vertices for each face, given that our UV sphere.obj in the faces section actually uses 3 vertices for each individual face that is defined, we go ahead and check the number of faces on the face line and increment that as the number of vertices based on the token length. We then set that to the size of our face vertices and UV index. In addition, we also increment over that many we use the number of vertices to determine how many loops we perform. We set up a 2D array for the indices based on a function that I will go over shortly. In truth, this array is not inherently 2D. It actually we just pass it back so that the extract face indices can instead use two values in a single object here. Then we increment over each individual part of this indices object and apply that to face vertices and face UVs. We then add to scene faces the new face based on vertices and faces, setting being part of face to true. At the end of this function, we call we clear face vertices and face UVs. Without this, I was able to find that it would not create these faces correctly. Breaking out into the definition of this extract face indices function. This this is simply done for readability within the main code itself. We use the token split on the /, then parse out the vertice index and UV index, passing this as a simple one-dimensional array object, which is used here to instantiate a 2D array with all of these values. I can go ahead and show the output of the file. This is what we were able to retrieve as the output with the changes that we've made. As you can see, this is an incorrect implementation. There is overlap here. I can actually show that with a very simple change to the camera function, we can instead display a different version of the object. I can go ahead and run this, show the function running correctly. Wait a moment as it processes the image, and this will also show the effects of the output file of the output function that I added here. We instead get an output one file, which shows that unfortunately, as mentioned, the texture is actually repeating on the image itself. However, this is a good deal better than what was a previous output of a very slashed and only half of the fish is being drawn on each individual square here. Okay, there we go. I'll go ahead and wrap up with that. Again, I apologize for it not being a perfectly created function to change, to correctly map the texture onto the sphere. However, this was as close as we were able to get, and we are okay calling that good. Okay, thank you very much, and bye.